Well, welcome everybody to PinstripeChronicles. I'm Tats. I'm here with Donald and Rob, and it was a major announcement yesterday that could be for the better, could be for the worse for baseball. It's still unsure. And Derek Jeter has stepped down as the CEO of the Marlins. And the question that it led to was, is it a former player that bought a team that saw the corrupt, all the BS that the owners were putting the game through and said, you know what? I love this game too much. I'm out. What was your first reaction when you saw that Jeter had stepped down?
So from what I believe, Jeter was under the impression that there was going to be another further about $15 million available left to spend if he chose to after the lockout, and he was basically told that's not going to happen now from his fellow consortium member. So at that point, Jeter then had to reevaluate as to what exactly is going on here, because he joined the Marlins to rebuild them and put them on a winning path. And, I think he was under no illusion that he was never going to have the kind of money that that was afforded to him, in his previous career as a baseball player. But he was probably under a better illusion that had he maybe got rid of high salary guys, such as them, that he would have some money to spend. But it's not really been the case for him. So he just went, you know what? I'm a winner, and I'm not going to have my name attached to a loser. So good for Jeter. There's a career for him in baseball. There absolutely is. He actually made some really smart appointments. If you look at the people that he hired for the Marlins, he just basically snapped up all the talent that was in the Yankee front office and put them all over in Florida. So he's also got a better manager in Florida than he did in New York. So than he does in New York. So that I would put Mattingly above Boone any day of the week. So I'm happy for Jeter. It's the right move for him. It really is.
Yeah, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, it was surprising because everyone was talking lockout, and then you see this news about Jeter just kind of out of the blue. But you get if it, he said in his statement that the direction they were going in was not the one he signed up for. So you wonder exactly what was going on there. Maybe they're trying to speed up the process or something like that. Who knows? But he's done a lot. Because when he first took over, living here in Florida, there are a lot of, sprinkled around Marlins fans, and they weren't too thrilled about what they were doing because they had a lot of talent on that team. They just, traded away. And to see them, they made the playoffs in 2020, but now they got some exciting young talent coming up, and it's all over the roster. Like, they've got a lot of young talent, and they've got a really good general manager. And I feel like they're doing some big things, and a lot of that has to do with the hires that Jeter made. But you wonder what they're doing behind the scenes that would make him leave. But my first reaction was bring him home, give him a job here, any capacity. I don't know what it's going to be, but bring Jeter back. I don't care if it's as like a co-GM. I know it's not going to happen. I'm just trying to think fantasy land here. I want Jeter with the Yankees is where he belongs, but look, he's got the experience now. The Marlins didn't win a World Series or anything with him at the position he was in, but he definitely has that team in a better position now than they were when he took over. So
well, if you look at the 2020 season, when they had the expanded playoffs, as much as we made a joke of it, that the Marlins made the playoffs, look at, it was, those were Jeter's plays. He's the one that was pretty much the team that he had put together. And he saw, okay, it's not a traditional window, but it's a window for us to prove ourselves. And rather than the other owners rally behind Jeter and say, okay, let's just spend a little bit more, expand on the talent, and become a legitimate playoff contender, they all started, this offseason, they backed down a little bit and, took back the money that they had committed to him. And that was, it's not Derek Jeter's nature to back down. His is to compete and push forward. And he had every right to do what he did. And I think it was honorable of what he did. Well, I'm an owner, not to make a profit, but to make a statement.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't let him make his statement, so he should take his talent, his competitive nature, and go elsewhere.
Yeah, he wants to win. It's as simple as that. So good for him. I mean, you obviously saw that he's not going to be able to take it to the next level with Florida. But I have respect for what he did. I mean, he got an unfair rap to start with. By trading away the big names. Okay, he got an unfair rap because of that. And then, I know that the Yankees, Brian Cashman doesn't really get on very well with Derek Jeter. I don't think he had much respect for the.
Yeah, but when they took over that team was in tremendous amount of debt.
Exactly.
It's not like those players with Stanton and Yelich. It's not that they weren't wanted. It's just that organization needed a complete reset with the new ownership coming in. They had no choice.
He did that. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, he obviously had to attach his name to those trades. And obviously, at first, it looked like, oh, what are they doing? They're just getting rid of all these great names. They're not really getting much back. But it's turned out he actually made them into a playoff team, albeit in a short season. But he did do that, and he's kept them kind of competitive in a market which is in a very difficult division. So you've already got the World Series champions, the Braves. Now we've got the Mets with Steve Cohen. The Mets have been spending money recently, and you've got the Phillies. Who are always competitive and spend a lot of money too. So. And the Nationals. So you've basically got World Series champions littered throughout that division, including the Marlins at one point. In fact, let's not forget that. So it's a competitive division, and he kept them competitive. So I think he's done a very good job. My point was that Jeter and Cashman don't get on very well, and they haven't really done so since that negotiation went awry in Jeter's last contract. So I don't see any situation where they work together. But would I love a situation where at the end of Cashman's contract, that Derek Jeter joins the Yankees in some role and then hires a new GM himself and puts us on a winning path? I would love that. And to be honest, I think the Yankee fans would need it. Because the Yankee fans have really had a hard time with the way they've been treated as an organization, as a fan base by the organization for a long time. Bringing Derek Jeter on board, that would certainly kind of help.
Yeah, it would. Look, I think Cashman's contract is up after this year, but we know it's getting extended. The fact that Boone was given 4 years, Cashman's getting another 3 at least.
Yeah.
They're just intertwined at this point. In a perfect world, we would have given Boone a 1-year deal and had him and Cashman leave at the same time. If we had a crystal ball that can see Derek Jeter was going to step down, the decision's pretty easy. You give it 1 more year with this duo, won't even call them a dynamic duo, and then let them out the door. And you get Jeter and let him do his thing. I think the fans would like it a heck of a lot more because if we're not winning the World Series, at least give us something to be happy about. And thing is about Jeter, he's about as old school as you can get when it comes to the way he played, yet he's going to push for the modern way. He's bringing in analytical guys. He's not going to be like, no, I'm doing this my way. And he's going to listen to the people around him. If he wasn't listening to the people around him, the Marlins would not have made a lot of the decisions they made the last few years. So I look, we all love Derek Jeter because of what he did for the Yankees organization in a uniform. So I'm sure we're all biased when we say all these great things about him, but it's the truth. He did a lot of good things for the Marlins. Were they a winner 1 year? but you always knew it was going to be a process. You don't rebuild and then magically become a champion and keep that going. Like, 2020 was a weird year. Let's we all know that, but there is going to be a role for him, whether it's with us or somewhere else in baseball. He will have a role. I'm sure for now he just wants to kick back at home. He's like, hey, the league's going crazy right now. Let me just sit back and relax. He's got plenty of money. He's got kids. He's got a wife. He's fine. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
Eventually, when he wants to come back, he'll have a job somewhere.
What kind of a role do you think we could hire for him? I'd love for him to be involved in the Yankee organization. I think maybe president of baseball operations. Like, say, in an ideal world, Cashman's gone and the Yankees have a clean slate, maybe. And Derek Jeter comes in, president of baseball operations. He hires a GM, maybe hires a GM from the Marlins, whatever, and then fires Aaron Boone, which would be wonderful. And then we can ride that. That would be fun. That'd be great. Oh boy, I'd be on board with that.
Yeah, Derek Jeter taking like Randy Levine's place.
I dislike Randy Levine as much as Donald dislikes Aaron Boone. I don't want to use the hate word, but we know that's what. Yeah, I don't like Randy Levine. If he was gone, if it was just him and Cashman stayed, I'd be okay with that. I can't stand Randy Levine. Ever since that whole Dellin Betances debacle, I don't like him. Really.
Now, the one thing is, the other factor to Jeter leaving was the power struggle between him and Sherman. And Sherman saying that Jeter had an ego behind the scenes. And that there was a little bit of jealousy that Jeter was, whenever he talked about the Marlins owner, it was Jeter, not anybody else in the group, especially Sherman, who was, the primary, he was the money guy. And of course, if you're going to bring in somebody, but I don't think what Sherman realized is when you're bringing in somebody like Jeter, there's your headline, 7 out of 7 days a week. So, yeah, Jeter may have had a little bit of an ego, but I don't think it was in a negative way. It was, look, I've been in this game for all these years. I know just trust me with the process. Just let me take the ball and run, and you guys just collect your money. And I don't think they were able to handle that. And I think they made that very, they decided to make it very difficult on Jeter to continue funneling money into the players rather than the owner's pockets.
I mean, Jeter was going to have an ego. I mean, it's Derek Jeter. He had an ego when he was playing. I mean, let's be honest.
But that's why I said he has that ego, but not in a negative way. It's his confidence in his ability allows him to have a little chip on the shoulder. He can walk around with that swagger. He's earned that 10 times over. So the other people in the partner in the ownership group, they had to know that was going to happen when they brought him in. Everybody saw that happening. It didn't matter if he was the fry cook. He was going to be the headline.
And the fact that could have been causing a rift just tells you that the guy that's running the team now, or whoever they choose to take Jeter's spot, it's not going to. Luckily they still have Kim Eng in tow, so yeah. I'm sure she'll do a good job building that team. But yeah, now that they got the ego out of the building, we'll see what happens with Miami. So I mean, look, I don't like the Marlins because I'm still petty and salty that they beat us way back in 2003, made little Rob cry, and now I had to kind of root for them because Derek Jeter was running the team. I was like, I don't care if they win, if they win, good for them because it's Jeter. But now that he's gone, I was like, I hope they lose every single game again. I can't stand it.
Well, they're definitely going to take a step back because now there's nobody to tell them to spend the money.
Well, they weren't really spending a lot of money. They were building from within, and you had the pieces, and you saw that the future was bright. It wasn't necessarily on the horizon, but it was close. It was closer than what they had been. They weren't winning with Stanton and Yelich and Gordon and all those guys. And yet, the future was kind of bright over there. People were going to the games because if you live in Miami and you go to a Marlins game, not many people go. That's just a fact.
It's pretty much pick your seat.
Just look at the stands. Just look at the stands. Every time the stand hit a home run, stand in this last year when you had that MVP year and everything was almost hit like 60 home runs. Every single home run that I saw him hit in Marlins games, it was empty stands. It was just going right into empty terraces. Yeah. I felt bad for the guy. I mean, so I'm kind of happy for Jeter because I don't really want his name attached to an organization which doesn't really care. I mean, they're obviously very smart and well run, but that's partly because of the way Jeter ran it.
So could it be like with the issue with the Marlins and why they weren't able to really get that franchise going, even after having a World Series in 2003, was just their location? With the Miami Heat, the Dolphins, college sports is huge in Florida. Maybe Florida is just not the right state to have a sport like baseball that is more regional.
Florida's very bandwagon. And even the Heat announcers admitted that when they got LeBron and Bosch that year. It's a bandwagon city. So when the teams are winning, people are going to show up. Other than that, it is a very Tampa. It's a melting pot. Like there's so many people here that are not from Florida. So it's majority Yankees fans and Mets fans and stuff like that. A lot of people from up north live here now. That's just a fact. That's why when, the Yankees come to Miami every so often, like they were this year, it was packed and it felt like a playoff game because it was mostly Yankee fans. But then you have people that are like, no, we're going to defend our city from these evil New Yorkers. So they show up and pretend to be Marlins fans for 3 days. It's just what happens. That's how it goes every single time. When the Mets show up, when the Phillies show up and the Red Sox show up, that's what it is. Other than that, they don't care. And
that's a shame.
Yeah, it's a big market. If you win in Miami, you're going to have people show up. People want to go there. Even if they don't care about the sport, they're going to go there to have fun. That's one thing about Miami is they're going to have fun no matter what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's a big market to win in. But when you're not winning, they're like, why should I go? Why would I want to go watch a team, even though the tickets are like $6 sometimes? Like it used to be. I used to go to so many Marlins games when they played at Pro Player Stadium, whatever name they had that year. It was the tickets were so cheap, even at the new stadium, but it was more like a museum. You didn't have to sit in your seat. You can just walk around and still watch the game. Oh, let's go check out the baseball museum they have over here and still watch the game. That's what it was. Yeah, and that dumb thing in center field.
From my experience, Florida's just Yankee fans. Really. It's just basically a state of
because we all retired to Florida.
That's what I'm just saying. Yeah, it's the state of retired New Yorkers. So that's what it is. It's fantastic. So no, listen. I think it's the thing that really concerns me is that if it was a power struggle over $15-20 million to spend to improve your team, doesn't that raise concerns about the way the owners most of the owners now in baseball are running their teams?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Which is why I thought, when this all happened, especially on the day that it happened, I'm like, what's going to be the trickle effect in negotiations? Is this going to cause a rumble amongst the other owners? That now because the players saw that as Jeter leaving as a victory. He's had enough of the owners' BS. He wanted to give more money to the players, and they found a way to annoy him enough to leave. Mm-hmm. And I think that looks very poorly on the owners going forward with these negotiations. So I think it is an upper hand for the players at this point. But we still don't even know what's going on. They had 13 meetings yesterday and accomplished nothing.
It shows the owners aren't negotiating in good faith. And we've already experienced it as Yankee fans with Hal Steinbrenner. Hal Steinbrenner is not really owning the Yankees in good faith. He's very much budget conscious. He's not focused on what the Yankees are about. So you've got him, and now you got like the Marlins, you got the Pirates who don't spend. You got a bunch of owners that refuse to spend any more than they desperately need to. And that is a very real concern, especially considering the Yankees are the biggest team in sports, and their owner is budget conscious. And I don't want to hear about the Garrett Cole contract and stuff, because for the majority of the time, if you one off season as opposed to like 5, where basically it's used to even up the salary cap threshold or whatever it is. So you know what I mean? Doesn't actually mean that he's spending. He's just basically spending the very bare minimum, if that. In fact, I think that's less. He's spending less than the bare minimum, and that's been the case for a while now. The Yankees could easily have sorted out all their needs in the prior offseason. Michael Kay said that we could have said that Brian Cashman really wanted Brantley. He wanted Brantley. There was a couple other guys that he really wanted in this previous offseason, which basically would have solved all our needs. And Hal stopped them. So Hal Steinbrenner lying through his teeth, saying that he is he's not worried about the threshold. If we go over it, that's great. I'm banging on the table to go get Joey Gallo. Lie. Lie. He's lying through his teeth. He's lying like a dog. He did not want to spend over the threshold. Brian Cashman even said it. Brian Cashman even said it himself. He said, mission accomplished. We stayed under the threshold. No, that is not mission accomplished. That is mission accomplished from the owner, but the mission should be winning a championship. But Hal Steinbrenner is basically handcuffing him to winning a championship. Now, do I think Brian Cashman's done a good job? I'd say he's done a mediocre job. But has he been hamstrung by Hal Steinbrenner? 100%. I will absolutely believe that.
If you were to grade Cashman over his tenure from the time that Hal took over, we know that he was around with, he worked with Stick and George for a while in the beginning of his career. But since working exclusively with Hal, how would you grade Cashman as a GM?
Like a C, maybe a B, because he's made some good moves. Like he's gotten some steals, and he's gotten a lot of steals and trades, including Giancarlo Stanton. I don't know why people are still talking about this goddamn deal like it was a bad one. There was some Twitter exchange yesterday about how the Stanton trade was a bad one, when I don't know how trading the defending NL MVP for Starlin Castro and a couple of mediocre prospects is a bad trade. But anyway, he's made some really good moves.
Yeah, I would say a B minus.
We haven't won a championship, though. We haven't won anything, and that's the issue. If we had won, maybe in 2017, had we won the championship, you could be like, well, Cashman built this roster, so then you can give him that B plus, A minus. But to me, it's like a C plus.
I would even go a little bit higher. I'd go B minus. I'm with you, Tats. I think B minus is probably fair, but I still count that as mediocre. I mean,
that's not good.
He's very smart, very smart.
That's what it is. He gets the higher grade because of his trade ability.
Yeah.
But when it comes to free agents and pushing to get just put more money into the roster. But the Yankees, when you think about it, they're not. It's not like they're being. I hate that they keep using the word cheap. And I've used that myself. I brought this point up on Sunday on Up at Deck when with Lynn and the Talking Rival guys with Chris and Patrick. If I have to give part of my my revenue, if I have to share it with teams that aren't investing it, why am I putting more money into that pool? That's why I think that they are scaling back. It's like, why am I going to give the Pirates a percentage of my revenue, because I'm putting a better quality on the field? I could save money by putting talent on the field while not having to put more money in other owners' pockets. They're still making the playoffs every year, and we all know they look at the playoffs as a crapshoot. Just get in and you get into the playoffs, you cross your fingers, you hope for the best. That's pretty much the way baseball playoffs have been going. Unless you're the Dodgers, where you're in it almost every year, or the Astros, where you cheat your way through. So, it's, do you think that that's a fair assessment of why Cashman has been a little withheld with money, or Hal has?
Probably, but also yeah, you can say he's being cheap, because even if you're look, we know he spent big money. We brought in Stanton's contract. He signed Garrett Cole. They re-signed LeMahieu to not huge deal, but a hefty deal. He is spending money. They foolishly gave Chapman all that money, but they're spending it, but it's like they're not spending it where they need to at all times. So he's not being cheap, but it's like you can do better. And Donald brought it up just a few minutes ago with the whole luxury tax thing. We know damn well he did not want to go over that luxury tax threshold, or else he wouldn't have traded Luis Cessa to get someone else to take Justin Wilson's contract. That right there is all the proof I needed. And the fact that
still confuses the hell out of me.
Every trade he made this past year, every team is paying for that player's contract. The Texas Rangers are still paying for Rougned Odor. He doesn't even play for anybody right now. So, like, you telling me
contract, Rizzo,
right? Everybody was paid for by the other team, and you had to give up more in prospect capital. And you're going to tell me you wanted to go over the luxury tax threshold? Stop lying.
It's a lie.
It's a dumb way to lie to your fans, because most of us that have been around for a while, a 5-year-old might hear and then I go, hey, Brian, you see, he's not cheap. But everyone else is like, wait, you gave away Luis Cessa, so Justin Wilson was off your books for the year. Like, you don't see that? Like, stop lying to us. That's my biggest issue, and has been for a while, is that the owners of this team and the whole organization treat us like idiots. Like, we're just going to fall in line and listen to every single thing they say when we know it's not true. You can build a World Series roster with the team we have right now. We just need a few more pieces. But if you're not willing to do it, why should we believe you when you tell us you're committed? Because you're clearly not. You can be the New York Yankees and bring in the best players you need to bring in and still not have to spend through the roof. There's plenty of talent out there. There was before the lockout, and they didn't do anything. So, like,
well, that's what pisses me off with everything with Jeter, to tie it back, is you had an owner that, I say that all owners, the problem with owners is they're not fans of the game anymore. It's just a business for them. It's just, it's just for profit. It's a hobby, as Lynn put it. And we finally had that owner that he understood how the game works. You put a product on the field, you bring, you give something for the fans to watch, and your money will come, from there. Not just withholding, salary to increase revenue. And we finally had that owner like that, and we lost him we lost him just as quick as we got him. And that to me is real. That I can't wrap my head around that. To me, that's not good for the game.
Yeah, here it is. Michael K says Michael Brantley and Kyle Schwarber wanted to be on the Yankees. They were pitched to them, and they were interested in coming to the Yankees, but the Yankees didn't have the payroll flexibility to bring them in. We're talking about the Yankees not having payroll flexibility to add, what was it? It's $10 million for Brantley's contract, right? And what was Schwarber signed for? Around about that as well. They didn't have the flexibility for that. I mean, we're not even asking Hal Steinbrenner to go $300 million payroll, even though Cohen has no problem with that. But we're not even asking the Yankees to do that. We're just asking the Yankees to have the maneuverability to go and add an extra contract at a reasonable sum if it meant putting a better team on the field. I mean, my God, I mean, it's not like they're not going to have any revenue coming from Yankee fans. Oh my God, people all over the world go to Yankee Stadium just to be at Yankee Stadium, and it's the biggest baseball team in the world, and it's the biggest sports team in the world, I think they couldn't add another $10 million, $20 million in payroll flexibility to go and add better players instead of having to pay the Rangers to go and get Rougned Odor. You know, I mean, Odor was obviously traded for because they couldn't get Schwarber or they couldn't get Brantley. So they're having to make B, C level moves in order to, you know, sort out the problems that were already on the roster. That's not putting together a winning product. I don't like that at all. Now, how would I assess Brian Cashman? I think he's incredibly smart. I think if you're going to ask the smartest GMs in all of baseball, he's in the top 2. He's top 3. He absolutely is incredibly smart. There's not a question about it. And he knows his stuff. Really, really good. And that's why he's absolutely no wonder teams hate negotiating with him in trades, because he has to win. And that's what you want on your side. You like that. So he's going to get you a good deal in a trade. And if he doesn't, then he's happy to walk away. And, you know, that's the best way of doing business. You know, you have to have a very strong hand, and you have to go into a negotiation willing to walk away if it doesn't reach your expectations. He's got that down to a fine, you know, a fine art. And he wins more trades than he loses, a lot more. But then his problem is, he's got an ego, which is actually bigger than anyone I've ever known involved in baseball, especially far more than Derek Jeter. Jeter's got a confidence in what he can do. Brian Cashman's got an ego, and he's got a huge one. And this whole Aaron Boone nonsense basically is all about his ego, because he couldn't have a manager that, you know, could actually just manage on his own volition. He has to have a puppet as part of that he can control, and that's what scares me. And that's
If
what
they think
takes
Jeter
him
had the
down a
ego,
level.
they obviously never worked with Cashman.
That's what takes him down a level for me. And then obviously the Aaron Hicks obsession, refusing to move off Gary Sanchez, his moving Gleyber Torres to short when he's a second baseman. I mean, those things alone would actually give you a failing grade. But I'm going to be kind to him because obviously he was involved in the championships, and he has probably done a good job despite Hal Steinbrenner. I think that as well. I think he's probably put out a competitive team despite Hal Steinbrenner on many occasions. So that would again put him up in the C-B range. It's really his ego that really, it's like he's got his problem is that he's so fixated on someone he likes. So Aaron Hicks, Gary Sanchez, right? He will not see the wood for the trees. He's obsessed with that. You know, his plan was to move Gleyber Torres to short, and he had to prove it was right. And God knows, he almost sank an entire season in order to prove that he was right. You know, and then, you know, that's the way he's managed Gary Sanchez, and that's the way he's dealt with the terrible Aaron Hicks contract. It's like he has to be right, and he won't move off that, and that's where he's wrong. If he was smart enough to just go, right, okay, these aren't working, and then he pivots. He pivots as fast as Sean Marks does for the Nets. You know, this isn't working. I'm going to have to put my ego aside and have to go and move off a star name to rebuild better for the future. That's a really good general manager. And I'm not sure if Brian Cashman is at that level. So I think he's a B-. Rob, what would you say? I think that's a good point.
He's done a lot of good, but he's also made a lot of very, very questionable moves. And a lot of it aren't even necessarily because of signings or trades. You know, the Gleyber Torres thing is a perfect example. He moved Gleyber Torres to shortstop, and a lot of fans wanted it. That's something that's a hill I will die on, because if you go to Twitter after 2019, when they let Gregorius walk, everyone was saying, well, we don't need him, we have Gleyber, because Gleyber was just fine over there when he was spelling the injured Didi, right? And then we got the switch, and it was like, oh, he sucks, move him. But Cashman didn't want to move off from that, and it didn't happen until the last month, like the last 3 weeks of the season. You shouldn't do that. You should have saw it from when it was the first few months of the season where he just could not do it. And I tried defending him. I wanted him to work
We all
out at
did.
short.
All
And
last offseason, we sat here saying, it was, the 2020 was a short year. Let's see what this season will bring. Maybe he'll hone some more skill, and he regressed even further back.
Not me. I knew there was something wrong. And Rob, finish your point.
No, I just think that a lot of his moves are questionable. He's had opportunities, and a lot of it is probably because of what's above him telling him what he can and cannot spend, which is something we're not used to. Again, I've said it too many times. I don't think they need to spend $500 million every offseason to be like, we're going to build a championship team. But when you have players that are on the market that make you significantly better than what you are, and you refuse to sign them because of some made-up budget that you should not have as the New York Yankees, that's where I get angry. Because we could easily – I'm not even going to say Scherzer because we were never getting him. The Mets had to sell him on New York. The Yankees were never going to do that.
Yeah.
Not for $40 million a year. But, like, this offseason, for example, if we let both Correa and Story walk, guys that make us win right now, one of the two, for a prospect who may or may not work out, when you can use all these prospects you have now, you have 17 shortstops in your minor league system, and you can use those guys to make your major league roster better and use your financial muscle to also make your major league roster better. And 2 moves alone turn you in from a playoff contender to a World Series contender. If we were to trade for Olsen or Reynolds and sign Correa or Story, we are a World Series contender. Right now, we're a team that's going to make the playoffs. They're going to expand the playoffs, one more team each league. We're going to make it one way or another. We already have enough talent. But if you add Correa and Olsen, or even if you just bring back Rizzo and you trade for, I don't know, you get what I'm saying though. Like if you can make the moves because you have the ability to do it, and you're not doing it. Correa just makes so much sense for this team. It's because you know what you're getting with Correa, right? You're getting a gold platinum glove shortstop. You're getting an excellent hitter. You're getting a winner where, it would be great if the prospects worked out and they're like, that's your future. But like, you just don't know. How many times have we called up a guy and not because the player was bad, but the organization fails that player? I don't want to see that happen with this current group of prospects. I don't want to see Cashman call up Volpe or Peraza for a week and then send him down, because that's what's going to happen this year. If we sign Andrelton Simmons and he has to miss like 2 weeks, they're going to call up Oswaldo Cabrera. They're going to play him. He's going to look okay. Like, hey, he's pretty good. Simmons is going to come back and they're going to send him down. That's what they didn't do. I don't want to see it anymore. So if you have the opportunity to go sign a freaking big ticket free agent like Carlos Correa and go make the trade for a guy like Matt Olson, you turn yourself into a World Series contender. And guess what? All that money you just spent is coming right back to you because of people that are buying the tickets and the jerseys and the hats and the shirts and the ticker tape parade and the Canyon of Heroes. It just makes too much sense, but they're not doing it. George Steinbrenner used to do it. He didn't care about the money. It didn't always mean a championship, but he went for it. That's one thing I will always defend him on, is he went for it no matter what. A lot of his moves did not work out. A lot of them. But he didn't care. He said...
He never stopped trying.
Right. And Hal's just kind of like, I have the money. I just don't want to use it.
It looks so good in my vault. I don't want it to move.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it is. The Yankees have the financial flexibility to sign players. They also have enough prospect capital to make good trades. But Hal and Cashman can't get on the same page. Well, they are on the same page because they don't do anything. But they don't want to let either one go. They don't want to let go of the prospects or the money. And that's where the Yankees are stuck right now. They're stuck in this little bubble of, I'm keeping it, it's mine.
Well, Hal Steinbrenner will always keep Brian Cashman for as long as possible, because Brian Cashman does everything that Hal Steinbrenner could possibly dream of. He keeps the team competitive every single year so that Bums will be on seats. There'll be sellouts more days than not. And they're competitive. And he hamstrings them. But Brian Cashman is obviously smart enough to maneuver enough around the cap to put in a competitive, semi-competitive team every single year. And so that's all that he's really asking. And Brian Cashman fulfills that. Plus, Brian Cashman's a company guy. Brian Cashman he will be happy just to accept that. I'm not sure whether, for instance, he went and then Theo Epstein would come in. Theo Epstein would demand a lot more from Hal Steinbrenner than Hal Steinbrenner is willing to give. You know what I mean? When Theo Epstein was brought in by the Red Sox or wherever organization he goes, he has a lot of demands, not necessarily financial, but a lot in terms of reworking entire baseball operations. Will Hal Steinbrenner be on board with that kind of level of commitment? No, I've never seen that from him. Never seen it from him since the minute he's taken charge. So that's why Brian Cashman's ideal for him. Brian Cashman doesn't cause him any problems. If Brian Cashman goes to him and says, I really want Brantley and I want Schwarber, Hal Steinbrenner goes, no, we can't afford it because we've got this luxury tax. And Brian Cashman goes, okay. And then that's it. If it was somebody like, for instance, a Theo Epstein would come in and go, I really want to completely rework the entire baseball operation. I want an entire new minor league system, and I want some money put aside for this, that, and the other. Do I think Hal Steinbrenner would be on board with that? No, probably not. I think Hal Steinbrenner and Brian Cashman are a perfect match together. I think that they're comfortable in mediocrity, and I think that's what we are. I mean, obviously now, if you're looking at mediocre from, say, a Pittsburgh Pirates perspective, they go, why are the Yankee fans complaining about being mediocre when they're in the playoffs every year, right? But if you're looking at it from the other side of the coin, where you're like, we're a big market team, the Yankees are not reaching expectations of a big market team. They're barely the bare minimum standard. So that's what I mean by mediocre. I think they're mediocre in comparison to what the Yankee standards are. In comparison to like a lower level team, and you're looking up going, wow, Yankee fans are upset because they're not spending any more than $200 million. I can understand their point. That is not to dismiss that. But I think every team has their own level. Every team has their own standards. And that's why we're upset as Yankee fans in general, most Yankee fans, going, right, where are we as a team? We've got the minor league infrastructure, we've got the money, we've got the payroll, and we've got devoted fans that will pay through the nose any kind of money. That's why Hal Steinbrenner puts some money up crazy with legend seats and all that stuff. Because Yankee fans will pay it. Of course they will. They love their Yankees. So the money comes in hand over fist, and they know that. And with that all in mind, and the Yankees don't really do everything it takes to win. They just do the bare minimum. That's what I mean by mediocre.
Yeah. It's definitely the case. And I'm hoping that at least the threshold for the shared revenue, I hope it goes up. So the Yankees, will have a little more flexibility within their own mind to spend a little more and maybe get that, a Correa type player without having to worry about, pinching pennies or raising tickets, ticket sales or the prices on tickets because they need to make that money back and they'll push the cost onto us, which should never happen when you're dealing with, with any owner of a sports team. But that's going to wrap things up for us today. Hope you enjoyed the discussion. Give us your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Check us out on sportnarium.com/player and on Northeast Streaming Sports on Roku. Wear your pinstripes with pride. Play hard.